Oh my God, Lord James, privilege spoke. Can you
Not
just
accident.
a second? Just say something. I just want to make sure I've got it. That way I have Haley perfectly set. Good talk.
Today is Mental Health Monday. So we're gonna talk about mental health and the importance of mental health.
We do mental health Mondays in Miss Harris's class.
Yeah. So today's prompt is, what are you?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
He's like, you
Thanks.
No.
I think my head's a bit big for that, actually.
What?
I actually like Mental Health Mondays. It helps with my anxiety.
It just makes me bored.
So I've started the stream, I've started my backup, and then we have Ray Chin. So one way or the other.
There's no Wi-Fi.
Is that Wi-Fi dependent, that one also?
It was, but I'm running cable underneath the back because I
Okay,
dropped
so
it
it's
there.
internet dependent, but if the Wi-Fi cuts
The
out.
camera isn't independent, so
Yeah.
now the camera isn't. Well, it is, because it's one. Mine was. I'm running to this one, so I'm not wireless on this. That's
Okay. Well, I mean, the other problem we ran into last time was when the Wi-Fi cut out.
The
she
Wi-Fi
didn't
didn't
load
cut
her
out.
presentation.
Oh, that is a problem.
Yeah.
The Wi-Fi cut out. There's no more Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi.
Really?
There's
Oh,
no.
wait, no, I want to get some more.
Usually I reset, I've been lately, I've been blocking resetting it annually.
Yeah.
But
They
Yeah,
presented
do
the
it.
news.
I just gotta grab the tools, really, and unlock it,
You can do
the
your
cabinet,
buttons.
slow down.
The presenters who
Yeah.
want each hand to turn their
So
head
I'm
and talk to each
well,
other.
but,
Yeah, no,
How does that help? I need to
And
demonstrate.
what we ended up doing was just, doing it.
Hello.
That's
That's really
If
weird.
these wires can turn off my house on that, just in case.
The Wi-Fi just turned off.
It did?
Yeah. We just checked.
What?
The student network.
Okay, so let me reset it right now. Okay. Let me grab a screwdriver. Okay. I'm just gonna do it regardless, I'm not even gonna check it, just gonna reset it.
Yeah, it involves.
You got this. Positive mindset.
Gotta stick up for more support. Huh?
Okay. No. We'll support you from right here.
Mr. Lord,
Yeah.
Mr. Lord, Lord James doesn't understand.
Look at this. Check your text video for the chin Ohana. Are you my Nana? You know how to text? What the hell does that do?
I'm sorry, you're not supposed to use profanity for the students. I thought you were supposed to be one of the good teachers.
I don't know.
I don't know.
So you didn't send me a text video as you described it.
Is that not what it in young people? That's not.
I got a text video. Shut
up.
I checked it. Text video.
Mr. Lloyd, that's why I think you've always been my favorite over Lord James.
Wow.
I'm just saying. I mean, it's the final thing. It doesn't really matter. I have no introduction. So,
Are you stepping in and doing our things here?
good.
This? Is this you?
Good morning, people.
I'm wait, hold on. Shoe day. Everybody, shoe day.
I am Miss
Good to see you. That app, check it out, by the screen.
Yeah, that's true.
You got the camera?
I don't have it out, but.
She's gonna do that every.
Yeah, I know, it slipped my mind.
I don't like that on my class. I like it though.
I know.
Oh, here she is. Great. Take that. Hey, Avery, did you see the last one?
Yes, I just forgot to.
No, that's fine. Great, one second.
Put it in your
Oh, that's great. How are you? Good to see you. It's- Don't worry, I'm not gonna add it on. Perfect. That's not bad.
Hello, I'm Miss J.
You don't even look like.
Now I look old.
Yeah, exactly like that. So, there were some other people in line, but no comment.
I miss.
Yeah, they're like 3 or 4 little pigeons.
You know my mom?
Oh, yeah.
I'm offended. Well, you see my mom like every day.
Yeah, they're.
Yeah, it was cloudy and.
He's like, Mr. Hill, I'm gonna show Anna what the camera says.
I like that dress.
All right, find a spot, please. We're gonna get started here soon. Wait. There's no food in here.
Yeah.
All right, Nico, no. Lisa?
Here she is.
Patrick?
Is that your? No.
Aiden?
Part of it.
Aiden, I see. Aiden is here. I saw him driving away from here.
Am I here?
Good morning, Lily's here.
I like it.
That's over exaggerating.
Mr. Rome. Oh, Mr. Rome. Hey, wow.
Did Tessa give you the, is it good? Okay, and you're gonna pull those strings.
Who else came in today? Yeah,
Well, that's very nice of you. We have to.
I made it to the finish line.
You were almost there when we saw you.
Wait, when did? Oh yeah. Oh, I was not in good shape though when you guys saw me.
We were able to cheer for you at that point.
There was a moment when I was very close to calling Mrs. Wood to get
Well, you made it though, that's all.
Are you ready, Lily? Morning, everyone. Up first this morning, we have Lily.
Hey guys, thank you for being here. So my topic is mental health and social media. And my driving question is, how does the concept of diet culture and beauty standards in social media influence the development of eating disorders that impact the mental health of teenagers in society? So why did I choose this topic? Well, from personal experiences and an interest in mental health and social media being such a relevant topic in our society, I found a passion for it, and I wanted to spread awareness and to show other people that there are negative effects that impact many people in our society. And so think about this in your head. Have you ever woke up like feeling insecure or down on yourself, or more specifically, have you had like negative thoughts about your body or a negative outlook on yourself? Well, social media can amplify these things, and it fails to show the flaws in people's lives, especially with like body shaming and like cyberbullying. There can be a lot of things that people can be affected by and exposed to on the internet. And there's a stigma that people need to look a certain way in order to fit in. So my first strand is, how does society and social media influence eating disorders? Well, raise your hand if within like the first 20 or 30 minutes of waking up that you use your phone. Okay, now raise your hand again if you look at your phone at least an hour before you go to bed. So the media is the first thing we see when we wake up, and it's the last thing we see before we go to bed. And so it's basically consuming us, and it's exposing us and influencing us in so many different ways, and it's altering things inside of our heads. So it's basically just like psychologically poisoning us with all these things that we see going on. And so 98% of teens own a cell phone, and 65% of those people use social media as their main form of entertainment. And they use it for an average of 4 hours a day, which is a long time. And I mentioned the term diet culture in my driving question, so I wanted to explain what it is. And it's to worship thinness and equate it to health and moral virtue. It promotes weight loss and maintaining a low weight as a way to elevate social status, and demonizes certain foods and eating styles while elevating others. I mean, we live in Hawaii. We're always in bathing suits, and people post bathing suit photos, just people that show off their bodies, and they use tools like Photoshop or filters. And when people see that, they can take it in a way that makes them, that society says that they have to look like that, and that they have to look a certain way in order to fit a standard that's just unrealistic. And so I saw these different pictures that I found online that I felt related to more of like the younger and upcoming generations, and how like the younger generations nowadays, their parents give them an iPad to keep them busy, to keep them staying out of trouble, whatever. But when I was little growing up, my parents just told me to go outside and play outside, or go and make friends. And so when parents give them an iPad, they're basically already altering their brain to a technological device instead of having them learn communication skills and social skills. And for these photos, I feel like they just speak for themselves, honestly. I found the Apple one to be very interesting because it's kind of like the mirror of the perfect red apple that looks spotless is the media, but you don't understand that in reality, it doesn't always look perfect. And that's what the media fails to show, is that there are flaws. And so when you think of these different terms in your head, what are like the stereotypical picture that you paint in your head? Like maybe for depression, it's the guy who's sitting in his bed with the lights off, or you think of an alcoholic who is at the bar with a bunch of drinks looking passed out. And when you think of the drug addict, you think of the guy in the corner with like half of his teeth missing. When you think of the anorexic, you may think of the girl, the really skinny one with the skin and bones. And these characteristics show the stereotypes and the judgment that people have on mental disorders. And the difference is that people are so quick to judge common misconceptions that there could be many people, even in this room, sitting next to you who may be going through something so difficult that you wouldn't even know because they look completely normal, I guess. But my point is that there's so many different variations of these disorders, and especially with disordered eating, that there may be people who, again, look normal but are really struggling. So for my next strand, which, yes, the media shows us many things, and we may experience things like body dysmorphia or comparing ourselves to other people, which can lead to more serious cases of how eating disorders affect a person's physical and mental health. So with anorexia, it can cause weak bones, anemia, deterioration of the heart, and deterioration of the brain. And bulimia can lead to organ damage, dehydration, stroke, heart attack, and can destroy the lining in your stomach. So these are very dangerous symptoms that the influences of social media can eventually lead to and develop from. And there's also, for the mental effects, it obviously creates a low self-esteem, other mental health disorders like depression and anxiety. And there's a part in your stomach called the gastrointestinal tract that can, that produces like feel-good emotions in your body. And when you aren't eating enough, your body is unable to get the energy to produce those emotions, which eventually will lead to more serious cases of other mental health disorders. And it also causes like isolation and heightened emotions. I mean, we've all experienced like being hangry, but when we're hangry, we typically just act out on our emotions, and they're typically more negative than positive. And it also causes isolation because different mental disorders, especially disordered eating, can be extremely consuming to one's life and can affect their physical, mental health, their social skills. It just consumes you completely. And so for my third strand, I have a dietitian's role in recovery. And so there are many different levels of care and stages of recovery, but some of the levels of care are like hospice care, residential treatment centers, intensive inpatient, and outpatient. And hospice care is typically for people who are severely underweight or have had really bad symptoms. And then residential treatment centers is where you go and you live in a house with other people who are going through similar things as you, and you all grow and learn together, and you're with dietitians and therapists 24/7, and it's where most of the work is put in. And then when you eventually reach inpatient and outpatient, you're held more accountable to kind of stay recovery minded on your own and continue to get better with more responsibility. And then there are different stages of recovery as well. And honestly, the time it takes to recovery just takes different times depending on the person. And so for my internship, I worked with Taylor, who is a dietitian, and she has her own private practice. And what I did is I shadowed sessions with her clients and her patients, and I saw a wide variety of different patients, ones who are more severe and ones who are less severe. And I was able to see their different types of treatments, what their recovery process looks like, if they're going back to treatment or if they're more on their own. And a lot of them, I saw a trend. A lot of them mentioned that society and social media contributes to their own body image. And so it really just spoke for itself, honestly. And from there, I wanted to create a product that kind of spreads awareness in a sense. So I created this flyer that has like a website and a number that you can call or text to show that like you can still get support, because sometimes it can be really difficult to ask for help from like immediate friends and family and people who are really close to you. So it's easier to try to get the first bit of support from maybe people who you don't necessarily know but are still able to help you and support you. And so circling back to my driving question, the negative messages of the media that stem through society's body standards and diet culture can lead to more serious cases of disordered eating, which can detrimentally affect a person's life. And my main goal with this presentation was to show you all that even if you don't necessarily struggle with any of these issues, you may know somebody who does, or you may not, but it's important to continue to support people you know and to have empathy and compassion for others, because you never know what somebody's going through. And we're held to such high standards with the media that it really shows that a lot of people, especially since COVID, have really been impacted by what they see, and it really affects their own mental state. So, thank you.
Where's that microphone? That might be the microphone. Yes. Good. Okay. Yunali, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. So I did my project on engineering and business aspects in contracting firms. So in my presentation, I'll be talking about my driving question, my internship and research paper, and then finally my future plans. So my driving question was, how do engineering and business aspects cohesively exist in a contracting firm to create a successful business? But in my research, I specifically took a dive in what fosters success in contracting firms within Hawaii. So first, I did my internship with Cone Development Group, which is also a general contracting company. I specifically mentored with Kevin Keller, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Cone Development Group, and who also spent majority of his professional career in the field of construction. Kevin Keller was an amazing mentor who really made sure I got all types of experiences and exposure to all aspects of the contracting and bits of the construction industry. The goals of my internship and mentorship were primarily for my research paper, but also to gain exposure and real-world experience of a position in the industry that has much effect on society and the economy. Overall, my question for myself throughout this project was, can I realistically see myself pursuing this field in the future? And so to go a little further in depth about my internship, I did a multitude of things in order to understand the industry a little better. So first, I did some on-site walkthroughs and really got to understand what positions are involved with what in on-site projects. I then sat through some meetings with my mentor and just listened to the different types of people who get involved for these projects. Most meetings consisted of architects, some sort of designers, superintendents, legal teams, and engineers. I also met with John Harper, who is a mechanical engineer and a business owner of his own firm, who I then got to interview and then just look through some of his work and at a glance at what he does. To also get some actual in-office work experience, I did some client sample request documentation, which was basically looking through hundreds of pages of project materials used, and taking the client's requested samples and or data and transferring them onto a document. Additionally, I did some takeoffs, which is the process that contractors use to figure out the exact quantity of materials needed for a specific project. For the takeoffs, I used a software called Bluebeam, which is like a CAD software. And if you don't know what CAD is, it's computer-aided drawing. So for my research paper, I focused on these three strands. The first being business and engineering aspects, and that just focused on what are the steps it takes to make and run a business, how to stand out as a business, and what legal aspects must one figure out for a project, and then finally how is profit calculated. My second strand I did was the diverse opportunities within the field. So this focused on the perspective of the company owner, the superintendent, and other specialists. I also focus on how does each department work together to be efficient and maximize profits. And the last strand I did was development versus Hawaii land conservation issues. So I kind of asked these questions are, how do projects interfere with these laws and activists/protesters? And is there any plan of action when these types of situations occur? And then lastly, my main focus on this strand was how are developments justified? So business and engineering aspects. Within the realm of engineering and business, there's an abundance of legalities that need to be sorted out. As any business, you must be properly insured to protect you and your business because you are technically selling something. Within the industry of engineering, the legalities involved are a lot more important. So in my interview with business owner of Maui Mechanical Engineering, LLC, he states that after getting an engineering license and starting a business, getting errors and emissions insurance is the most important thing to do. Being an owner and also having an engineering license allows you to sign off on drawings, but also makes you responsible for them and their safety. Although having an engineering license allows individual perks like being able to make more money by stamping, which is the process of approving drawings, and designing the mechanics of things such as HVAC and plumbing, being able to stamp blueprints means you're more liable and responsible for ensuring that the mechanical interruptions are following safety protocols and also educating clients about certain precautions. So to explain that a little further, basically, since you're dealing with construction and physical structures that have the potential to affect a person's life and well-being, it results in really strict codes and regulations in which you must follow. These regulations differ depending on commercial buildings and residential homes, but in general, being in this industry makes you very liable for mistakes, so making sure you are properly insured is very detrimental. So to dive deeper into my business aspect, I made a business plan one-pager for my product. And this plan just went over how I could successfully carry on making a business out of contracting. This plan is based off my current goal or my future goal, which is creating sustainable and affordable housing targeted to local and indigenous communities. And so for this business plan one-pager, it basically went over 8 of these main points in order to create any business. And so it's the problem, solution, business model, target customers, promotion, financial projections, competitive advantage, and then funding required. So to go over it a little bit, so the problem would be to solve the housing crisis and in the long run positively impact the homeless epidemic. The solution would be to provide sustainable and affordable housing and allow locals to have first priority on housing opportunities. So my business would make profit by charging a certain percentage on each project, but the majority of it would just to benefit the community. My target customers would be obviously to locals, primarily low to medium income. And then for promotion, I honestly won't need much advertisement because once a business like this hits the news, there'll probably be a lot of people lining up due to this housing crisis. So I don't have a dead set number on what the financial projections would be because it's all dependent on the market value and market price and also the economy. For a competitive advantage right now, there aren't many, if any, businesses that focus on housing sustainability along with affordability, so there will be advantages on my end. And lastly, the funding required, I estimated approximately 15 to 20 grand for a starting fund. So we're going into my third strand of development versus Hawaiian land conservation issues. Right now, Hawaii is battling one of its toughest battles with developers and developments. The word development has become something taboo. And although this may be for good reason, my question while researching this was how are land developments justified in this industry? I asked this question to my mentor and he answered by saying, the issue remains with the developers from the mainland who craftily build houses and leave with the sole purpose of making as much profit as possible. Although these issues don't stop people from continuing to gentrify neighborhoods, what Cone Development Group does differently is to focus on the community and make sure to give back. We have a whole process. We make sure to bless the land and abide by the rules and laws when it comes to contracting homes. And so he references that they have to abide by the rule that at least 25% of developments must be reserved for affordable housing. So although his response didn't really answer my question, I think the answer to this question is objective. Although many Native Hawaiians would agree that development is bad, there's still a large percentage of Native Hawaiians that would disagree and believe that development is good for Hawaii. So this argument of ethics and what is good and what is bad is difficult and at a constant standstill. But I will not go down this rabbit hole as it gets too political, and I think you believe what you want to believe. So straying away from this topic of is it justified, I now ask the question of can there ever be such a thing as beneficial or good development? So this brings me back to my driving question of how do engineering and business aspects cohesively exist in a contracting firm to create a successful business? So I answer that by saying, in the world of contracting and development, all physical aspects rely solely on the ability of engineers, architects, carpenters, construction workers, and other specialists. Without them, no blueprints, structures, commercial buildings, or residential homes would exist. On the other hand, all legal aspects rely solely on the ability of accountants, data scientists, contractors, and lawyers. If the business factor were absent in this field, there would be no opportunity for these engineered products to come to fruition in the marketplace. This almost like symbiotic relationship within the field results in the blossoming of both business and engineering in order to maintain an industry of success and industry of success. So in Hawaii, the contracting and construction industry relies on the coherency of business and engineering, the advantages of the cultural community network and communication, the diverse opportunities available, and the opportunity for development to succeed as an industry. So for my future plans, currently my future plans are to continue to further my education at Gonzaga University, where I'm planning to study engineering and double major or minor in business. Not only will I be furthering my education at the collegiate level, but I hope to do internships with many different industries to gain more exposure, as well as to overall grow as an individual. My insatiable hunger to learn and better myself continues to drive me in everything I work for, and also I'd like to be part of the future that makes a beneficial impact on any community I'm a part of. Thank you.
All right, Haley Chang, everyone.
Aloha, good morning. My name is Haley Chang for those who might not know me. And today I decided to do my senior project on the important role that kindness has within the medical field. So before I go into what my driving question and claim is, it is important to know how I got there. And going to the beginning, my research began by looking at the statistics. In 2018, CDC, which is an acronym for the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Where exactly did the P go in the CDC? I have no idea. But the CDC-P released that 1 in 12 of adults from the ages 20 and older are depressed. And then later in 2021, the World Health Organization released a study stating that over 280 million people have been clinically diagnosed with depression. Note that I use the word clinically. That means that this grand estimate of 280 million people only account for those who have been given a medical evaluation and been clinically diagnosed by a doctor with depression. What it does not account for is for all of those who have depression, are unaware of it, and that means they don't have the treatment that they need. Now, these statistics are semi-outdated, but with the current recent news events that we see all over the world, I can only assume that these numbers and statistics have increased over time. So I have one more statistic, and it's given to us by the United States Census Bureau, and they have shared that only 37% of those from the ages 18 to 24, and only 8% of those of retirement age, which is 65 and older, actually attend their doctor visits. And what are we left with when we combine all of the statistics of those with depression compared to the percentages of doctor visits attended? We're left with a big number of people in need of help and only a small percentages of those actually getting the help that they need. So why are millions of people in need not getting the help that they need? That leads me to my driving question. And with an increase in physical and mental health illnesses, why is there a decrease in doctor visits? Now, there's multiple reasons for why this could be the case. One reason could be it's too expensive. The cost of medical care, as most of us know, can be very costly. And for many families, especially on the islands, they have a big family and they have a low income. So something like medical care is something that they just can't afford. Another reason could be it's not a priority. You have a long list of things to do in your day and simply you just don't have time to go to the doctors. And for those who live on the west side, it's over 30 minutes to an hour drive to the doctors, and that's just something that you can't get done in your day. And then another reason could be self-diagnosis and self-treatment. This is very common in our current society. When you have a rash on your arm, or maybe your pinky toe on your left foot is green and it's swollen, the first instinct that we have is to Google it. So we search up, what is this having on this? Or once you find the diagnosis that you think fits you, then you go and search for what is something that I can do at home to fix this, or what medicine is sold at the nearest food line that I can buy. And all of these are very valid reasons. But for the sake of my project, I made a goal to have a problem that I can solve or help solve right now. So cost of medical care, that would take maybe 15 years, maybe more. If I worked really hard, I could probably get it, maybe 10. But overall, it's just something that would take a long time to do. And considering that I want to graduate and this is a requirement, that was not an ideal way to go. But also with calculating the cost of medical prices, you have to account for wages, and you have to account for facilities, the price and the cost of medical or medicine. And frankly, most doctors work within a hospital, so they don't have much control over the price that they are charging you for. So this was not the route that I chose to go to help solve. And next is time management. I'm not going to stand here in front of all of you and tell you how to manage your time better and how you have to prioritize things such as going to the doctor, because frankly, that information probably wouldn't leave the wall of this room. I could give you a big long speech, but would it be effective and would it be beneficial in the long run? Probably not. And also, it's boring, so no thank you. And then self-diagnosis and self-treatment. This is a habit that everybody has, especially in this current day society. I myself also search up things. It's just instinct. So once again, I could give you a long lecture of the importance of going to the doctors and not Googling it and relying on the resource on the internet. But that's, once again, probably not going to leave the walls of this room. So not the most ideal one to solve. Once again, all of these are valid reasons, but for the sake of my project, I wanted to find something that I can prove now. So none of these would have worked for me, which is perfect because coming into this project, I really wanted to find a way to incorporate kindness and the benefits kindness has on an individual. And considering that I am going to pursue a medical career in the future, I just put two together and boom, I have my senior project. That leads me to my claim. The implementation of kindness within the medical field can lead to an increased desire in obtaining a doctor checkup and a proper improvement of their health. Now, I did do research during this year to support my claim, but fortunately for me, the majority of my research was done during my junior project. So if some statistics may sound familiar, it's because a lot of it did come from last year, and if you hear from last year, when you saw my passion project. But I consider my junior project and senior project as one cohesive project. Junior project would be considered as step one, gathering information and looking up research articles and looking at the experiments that have already been done in the past And today, in this senior project, we'll be putting all of that information into action and putting it out into the community. So next would be my internship. Now, a lot of learning can be gained through studying medical research articles and experiments, but there's no learning that you can compare to when you actually experience it. So that's why I decided to and had the opportunity to do my internship at my medical group on the pediatric floor. And I got to work with Dr. Matthew Ho, who's a pediatrician, and pediatric nurse Shalia. Now, there's a lot of things that I learned, but to try and summarize it and put it together, I put 4 key takeaways. First would be, what are the key the first question that I asked Dr. Ho on my first day was, what do you think a pediatrician should have, like qualities? And he said, 1, being empathetic. You, as a doctor, are most likely seeing your patients when they're at their worst. It's very rare to see a patient in good condition on good terms. So when you're with them, a lot of times they're nervous or they're not feeling well, so you need to be empathetic and show compassion towards them. And patient. You have to be patient with your patient. All patients, maybe they're anxious, they really want to know the answer. So and also, they all have different personalities that may be different from what you're used to. Gotta be patient with them. Then, know when to give the patient space, especially when you're a doctor in the field of pediatrics. Sometimes children don't want to be touched, or sometimes they are not having it. You have to understand their boundaries as well. And that goes for all patients of any age. You gotta respect when they are not comfortable or when they need some time to process things. You have to respect their boundaries. And be observant. A lot of times in the pediatric floor, especially, maybe a kid will be kicking and screaming, crying. They don't want you to touch them. They don't want anything to do with you. They think being at the doctor's is the worst thing in their life. So you have to adjust your protocols, and you need to be observant to be able to gain the information you need. For example, a key tip that Dr. Ho gave to me, if a common or standard medical checkup that you would see in a physical is when they have a popsicle stick and they put it on your tongue and you say, ah. A lot of times if a child doesn't want to be touched or they're kicking and screaming, he just looks for when they are screaming, bloody murder, and crying, and look in their mouth when their mouth is wide open. So that would be another great example of being observant, to get your job done, but also respecting the person's boundaries and being patient and empathetic. The next is excellent communicator. A lot of times doctors have a lot of knowledge in their mind and they have different complex medical terminology, but not everybody's a doctor, and you have to understand how to best describe somebody's situation to the patient's family, so that they can best know what's going on with them and what they need to get help. And then for one of my favorite ones, he says, if you're pediatric, you have to like kids. Okay, and back to the key takeaways. That was the qualities that he said were best. Next is understanding who you're caring for. One of my favorite takeaways and sayings that Dr. Ho shared with me is that there are 2 types of patients, the patient and the parents. And if it's not a child, then parent could be family member or caretaker. When you are dealing with a patient, their family member, whoever's coming with them, is an extension of themselves. You have to care for them as well. Because if a parent or a family member is upset, then the patient's going to be upset. And then everybody's going to have a big, complex situation where nobody's happy. And then nothing's going to get done, and then nothing's going to be taken away from that day. But you got to learn to not only be caring and empathetic, like how I stated in the key takeaways, but also you have to be that way to the patient and its family. And the next is be respectful. You're gonna see and meet so many different types of people from different beliefs, different perspectives and backgrounds. And most often than not, that they're gonna be different from yours. You have to learn to be able to be understanding and respectful of what they believe. And sometimes that also means that you're gonna have to adjust your protocols and what you do on your normal day-to-day basis. And to be prepared. Anything could happen. Anything could happen. Just like how I shared before, maybe a child is not willing to cooperate, or if you are working with older patients, maybe they don't they aren't unsatisfied with what you are giving them. So then you have to adjust and provide other options to help suit them. You have to cater to them. Okay. Okay. So now let's do a temperature check. Did I introduce and establish a driving question and claim? Yes. Did I gather research? You're darn tootin' I did. Did I do my internship? Yes, I did. Now, all I'm left with is my product. So when I was searching for a product, I wanted to try and find a way that I could get this message of implementing kindness within the community. I'm not a doctor, so it was pretty unlikely for me to be doing much within the medical field. But I'm not sure if most of you remember last year, and one of the X blocks offered was by Ms. Duarte was crochet. I learned how to crochet since when I was, I think, at the age of 12, and it was always something that I enjoyed doing. I didn't know it was something that many people like to do, especially online. It was unheard of to me. And when I realized how much people really enjoyed crochet from that X block, you would see people like maybe Jonas or Thomas Tingle, boys like those actually enjoying to do something like crochet. So then I thought I could put two and two together and show and implement my driving question and claim of kindness through the gift of crochet. And the first step is to actually create a plan for my club. And this would be my prep's first ever crochet club. First step, possible interests. Though I could tell from the X block that people are interested, it was a year before, so I don't know if there was an interest now of people actually wanting to be in a club. So I would have to go around, ask people, hey, would you like to be in this club if it ever was possible? Next would be find an advisor. I was able to have Miss Lon be our advisor, and she's amazing. And then construct a plan, which I have talk about. If it will load, it will not. Oh, there we go. So this is all like the first draft of all the information I needed to know. It was, what was the purpose of the club? It was to serve others through the gift of crochet. What is my outreach? It would be classroom. Google Classroom is what we use often, and Team Reach. Finances, where we're gonna get the yarn, where we're gonna get the crochet needles, and all the other things. What would we be doing? When is meetings? How much hours? And who's the presidency? What are our members? And this is what we first started off when we first started the club. Only 4 members. The next was to get confirmation and actually put it to work. So I had to go to Mr. Kirkham and get it confirmed and see if it was okay. And once it was good to go, I had to get to work. So the current status of our club is that we have done or are currently doing 3 projects. And it was established in August of 2022. We have currently 9 members, and each member so far has done 40 plus hours of community service to crocheting the projects that we have. And we meet every Monday. So now currently, I don't have any pictures because it's a current project, but we are crocheting beanies. This is the ones I had made. We're crocheting beanies for those cancer patients, and also crocheting toys for pediatric patients. I have a toy, but it was the first time I made a bear, and it looks deformed, so I didn't want to do that. And then we had a completed project that we did last month, and it was we made lap blankets for dialysis patients. So this is photos. This is our club. That's one of the patients with the blanket on his lap. And then we went to Rainbow Dialysis in Lahaina, and that's another blanket. And this is one of our club members right here. Ari, she's right there, hiding. And then that's a photo of us with all our blankets on our way to dialysis. And since we have some members here, I think we have quite a bit of members here. I want to ask them what are their opinions and like what your takeaway was when you guys delivered your hard work. So, senior, Lucy. Hi, Lucy.
I'll speak.
Okay,
It was really rewarding like, being able to like give people what we made. Yeah, it was nice.
Ari. what is your takeaway?
The club was really fun. It was really nice giving back to the community.
And fun fact, only 2 of us in the entire club actually knew how to crochet. So we spent like the first couple months teaching how to crochet, and then first project that they did was the crochet blanket. So they learned fast, and they're a really talented group of people. But I didn't tell any of them this. My grandma goes to dialysis, and she I got to talk to her like a week after, and I was like, well, how did they like the blanket? She's like, they really enjoyed it. That's a great thing that you guys did for them. And I see how something like dialysis takes a toll on my grandma. So when I was thinking of projects that we could do, I wanted to find a way that we could help comfort all of those, especially like our elderly who I can never do a presentation without crying. Find a way to help those in our community, especially the elder people, because they've done so much for us. And yeah. So and that just by that conversation that I had with my grandma, it shows how important it is to have kindness within the medical field. They spend hours, especially for those dialysis, they have almost 3 or maybe more hours, days in a week where they go spend the majority of their day attached to machines and monitors, taking out the blood of them. And it's just not a fun situation to be in. So, and when we walked into the building, you could tell that they all were just tired and they didn't want to be there. But just the simple act of us giving them a blanket and letting them know that we care for them made it even more better and something to look forward to, because now they can come to dialysis and use a new blanket. It just showed them that have a more desire to come and actually go to dialysis. So this just proves my claim. Kindness is important, especially inside of a medical field or medical facility. As a doctor, your job is not just to care for the patient's health, but also you have to care for the patient's emotions. You could have so many PhDs, you could spend over 12 years in school learning and training and be the top of your class, but none of that would mean anything if you didn't have anybody to care for. So the main priority, yes, is to heal the people that came in, but also not only physically, emotionally, and mentally. Now, for the future, I hope the club continues to educate our youth, especially how to implement kindness and serve others within the medical field and relieve some of the pains that they're going through. And for personally, I am going to be a new student at BYU in Provo, Brigham Young University, in which I will continue to further my medical studies and be able to put this in the actual medical field when I become a doctor, to be a neonatologist. If any questions, feel free to ask, but thank you.